Hey everyone, this is Debbie Foreman. Welcome back to GAPTrax. Usually we do two segments, GAPTrax, GAPTricks, which is where first we react to information about the gaps hindering society, progress, people, and their well-being. And then usually I come in with the second segment where we show the frameworks. But today I'm going to be doing something different. I'm just going to be combining the two into a very short video. I was sent a segment. I don't know exactly what it's about, but it's about skill gaps. And I did one last week about skill gaps. And when we talk about skill gaps, we're going to be doing just the comment on the skill gaps. And just so you can get a glimpse of how you can tackle this on your own. So once again, gaps hinder progress. The skill gap is talked about. If you go and do a search on AI right now, show me all the videos in the world about skill gaps. You're going to have content to watch 2 hours a night for the rest of your life. There's so much content out there. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's mentioning it. And not much is done about it for the individuals, like the yous and the me's, or the me's and the yous. Okay, so this is what we do over here at GAPTrax. We close the gaps that hinder progress, and one of those areas is skills, and I'm going to show you what you can do to start tackling this immediately in a DIY that you don't need a Harvard or even a junior college, not even a high school, because high schools don't deal with this. We're going to show you. You guys ready? All right. So let me jump into the segment, which is the part I'm always bad about doing. See if I can get this. I always suck at just switching these screens. Let's see if we can do this. And here we are. Okay, this is a segment sent to me. This is from Stanford 2019, a little outdated, but outdated. If the skill gap was a problem in 2019, it's only gotten worse after COVID. We all know that. This was the timestamp given to me. And as I said, this is 2019. We're in 26, 5 years ago, post-COVID. Skill gap has only gotten worse.
I've seen national security and foreign policy challenges facing the United States involved with digital technologies. In domains as varied as enhancing the resilience of critical infrastructure against cyber threats, sustaining America's global leadership.
You know, cyber threats. I am filming this on March 18th, 2026, as we are in the middle of the war with, with Iran, against Iran, where Iran is being bombarded by the U.S. and Israel, where Israel is protecting itself from hundreds of inbound missiles a day, which don't show up on mainstream media, where misinformation is coming out. We are, I guess, on day 18, 19, 20 of this war. And so as we're talking about this, nobody actually realized the cyber threats, because we do know that a couple of days ago, either Israel or the United States or the UAE, somebody around there, closed down Iran's access to their national bank so the leadership couldn't get their monies out.
In innovation and countering disinformation campaigns, the features and limitations of digital technologies are part of the problem, part of the solution, or oftentimes both. Technology literacy is therefore...
Technology literacy. Okay, 2019, my ebook written in 2026, 5 years later, technology literacy and the World Economic Forum. We're going to get to that in 1 minute.
Or an increasingly vital skill for policy decision makers to possess.
Technology literacy, vital skill for policy decision makers to possess. Did you guys hear that? Let's read that. Technology literacy is a vital skill for policy decision makers to possess. Now, if a policy decision maker is a seasoned professional and in their late 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe even 70s, because that's, the older you get, the more you're into policy, and you don't have that technology literacy, then how outdated, how much of a skill gap is that? And how much of that gap, because of the skill, is not allowing you to create the perfect policy or the best policies or, adequate policies?
The relative scarcity of such literacy in Washington, D.C., and the growing awareness among policymakers about this skills gap has resulted in an increased emphasis on the need to incorporate technologists and technological expertise into national security and other policy making processes.
So look at the thing. This is what gets me. Because there's a skill gap in policy-making professionals with technology literacy, instead of reskilling or upskilling the policymakers, they're hiring a second layer of professionals to fulfill that gap. But that professional doesn't understand necessarily the policy. So wouldn't it just be better if we were to upskill the this generation of people that don't have technology literacy, upskill them. It's not a hard skill to acquire. It doesn't have to be a full-time job. It just get them up to date so they can follow. And I'm not going to go much further on that. What I do want to do is come over here. And this is what I want to talk about. You guys, this is our ebook. Download it. You could get the link on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, download. Okay. I'm just going to scroll through this real quick. Let's get a good look on this. How human development empowers everlasting life transformation. Human development. So development means upskilling. It means understanding where your gaps are, understanding what needs to be done. And I'm going to scroll through all this. And here's what we're talking about. A couple of things here. A gap is the distance between the skills you possess and lack. So what did they just say? They said, oh, the policymakers lack the skills. They lack the skills. Sorry, I'm over here. They lack the skills. And technology literacy is a skill that needs to be possessed. So instead of upskilling those who lack it, the suggestion is find people who have it. Well, one people's on one side, the other people's on the other side. That gap is still going to be there. You guys got it? That's pretty simple. Okay, now I want to move on. What happens with these gaps? Okay, and there's a hidden cost, and that's invisibility. And I'm not going to get into the details of this right now, but invisibility means that those professionals are going to get more and more outdated. And even though they're good at creating policy, they're going to start losing their space. And why that matters? Because in professional development, it means that many of these policymakers have hit a plateau. That's it. They're there. So once again, upskill them. They've outgrown. And this is what they're exactly talking about. And I'm going to bring us down. You guys can download this and go through all the rest. I want to get specifically to this, the World Economic Forum. This is not Debbie and her company and our process and GAPTrax and the course you could take. We're not making this up. Although we do give you the skills to develop the skills, the framework to develop the skills on GAPTrax. And we'll mention the segment where you can do this. But you can also do it right here. You can take a little quiz and see where your gap is in the skill gap. Because what happens? The World Economic Forum, they created the top 10 requirements, all right, for the skills required between 2025 and 2030 on the job market, all right? So we took those skills and we did the following. We decided to play a game, like a little quiz that you can do. So if you download this, you do this on your own, real easy. You go to this page, and you can do it digitally or you can print it out. I think it'd be fun to print it out and just like tape it in front of you on something so you could stare at it. So what are you looking at? Here's the question. Did you learn this in school? Do you need it at work? Once again, do you learn this in school? Yes or no? Do you need it at work? Yes or no? Analytical thinking innovation. Did you learn that at school? Yes or no? You need it at work because that's what the World Economic Forum is saying. Active learning and learning strategies. Did they teach that at school? You're going to need it at work. Complex problem solving. Some schools, I'm going to say, okay, but you need it at work. Critical thinking and analysis. Maybe. Maybe you learned it at school. Definitely need it at work. Creativity, originality, and initiative. Is that honed in on at school? Some yes, some no, but you do need it at work. Leadership and social influence. That's important for policymakers. Some schools yes, some schools no. You need it at work. Here you go. Technology use, monitoring, and control. If you didn't learn it at school because they didn't have it, you need it now. There's a gap, big gap. And that's exactly what they're talking about, the skills gap. But instead of fulfilling that gap with the individual that's lacking it, they're suggesting creating another layer of individuals that are on the other side of that valley. Technology, design, and programming. Did you learn that at school? If you didn't, and you need it because you're a policymaker in Washington, D.C., and the nation's security and policy depends on it, upskill our policymakers, please. Resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. That's a good one. Can you imagine like you're in 12th grade getting ready to go to college and one of your core curriculums classes is a class on resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. Does anybody have a class on that in public school, in high school? Don't think so. Is there a class in college on that? A coursework called resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility? But you needed to work, and this is what happens. You get hired for the academic knowledge and work that you've done. That's what you get hired for. You get fired for not having this yes column. Reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. Maybe yes, maybe no, but you do need it at work. For sure, most schools are still working on trying to find a way to incorporate that. This is your yes column. If you have yeses, and you do because this is what the market requires, and there's no's over here, you know what you need to reskill on. And we can help start you that on GAPTrax. It's that easy. It's a DIY. It doesn't mean that you're going to gain all of the technical skills, but it's going to make you understand which technical skills, where you need to go, how you need to do it without having to go back to college or without taking, like stopping your life. You can identify where those gaps are, framework those gaps, and then go do very specific quick course content so you can be upskilled and ready for the market, just as the World Economic Forum says. So that's basically all I had to say. Sometimes I know I sounded irritated and frustrated today, but you hear that like Washington, D.C., this is our nation. It's supposed to be protecting us. We're in the middle of a war. We're in the middle of a war. And we're listening like 5, 6, 7 years ago. Policymakers aren't skilled, so they're doing layers and it's not matching. And how do we know? How do we know that those policymakers have the skills that we need to create the policies that keep us safe, that help us progress? And I'm going to tell you something. I don't feel like that skills gap has been, filled. And I'm going to tell you it's at the DC level, at the government level. I'm going to tell you why. Schools haven't changed. Schools have not changed. But everything else, all the skills that we are required to have. And who's making those policies? They're just yappy-dapping, and it doesn't matter what side of, if you're on the far left or far right, there's a lot of yappity-dappity, because the policy turns into action, and the actions are not being seen. I'm looking forward to your comments on this one. And really, if you feel like you're stagnation, you're sitting there and you're spinning your wheels, because those skills, you just saw that. Those skills aren't quite there and you need them. You feel like you don't know which way to go. You've tried A, you've tried B, you've tried C. GAPTrax. 5 hours of coursework, divided into little bite-sized lessons, frameworks. Listen to our YouTube videos. See the people that have done it. Go to our Instagram. Take a look. Go onto the site. Go onto the free course. Download the free episode. Get an insight. $90 to change your life. It's there. It's now. And this is one of the other things I just want to hone on. We are in the middle of this war. And we in the United States are lucky. We have the freedom of choice. You are free to make a choice. You're free to try. You're free to make a mistake. You're free to upskill and to be everything you're meant to be. Not everybody has that freedom. So take it. Once again, I'm Debbie Foreman. Looking forward to seeing you on the next one.